Okay, this is an amazing, amazing class. It's not a long class, but the lesson that we have to take to life, the lesson that we have to take for our personal life is incredible. So it might not be a lot of words, but there's a lot to accomplish. Um, so to preface this, I'm going to tell you a little bit what I heard from Rabbi Ashkenazi. He lives in Israel. He's an amazing speaker, and he teaches this teaching. But he teaches this teaching, and he also um, makes it very, very practical. And there are some things in life that are simple, simple truths. Something so, so simple that could be so, so life changing. Um, sorry, it's my phone. Whatever. Okay. Um, so let's talk about relationships. So what happens is in relationships is that sometimes a person feels that they're not getting what they need in the relationship, and they feel locked up, they feel in jail, they feel alone. And this this teaching could really, really help a person get out of their, get out of of this feeling so stuck and alone, and to really, really um, help them have good relationships in their lives. Um, and so Rabbi Ashrazi starts off with a story. He says that someone called him and said that he knows a couple that's about to get divorced. If he could intervene, if he could help out. So Rabbi Ashkenazi is like, I don't know them, to interfere, I don't know. So the man says, one thing I know, that every Friday I hear your class playing in their house. I know that they listen to your class. So I'm sure they would take your advice seriously. Could you please help out? So and he arranges it. So Rabbi Ashkenazi speaks to the husband, and he's like, yeah, for sure. I want to save my marriage. I love my wife, love my kids, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to my wife. So he speaks to the wife, and she says, I'm done. I'm done. I can't take this relationship anymore. I can't take this marriage anymore. I've had it. I feel like a slave. I'm done. So he asks her, did you ever speak to your husband about this, about how you feel? So she says, what? I could never speak to him. I can never tell him how I feel. If I tried to criticize him and tell him how I feel, the criticism is just going to backfire, and I'm gonna regret the day that I ever said anything. So this class is going to teach us how to sometimes things have to be said, how to give criticism in a way that it won't hurt the person that you're talking to, and how it won't hurt the person that's saying it. Um, that not to be the person shouldn't be afraid to say what they have to say, and the person that has to hear it doesn't have to be that won't be hurt. And that to know this tip, to know this tool is life changing. Um, okay, so that's just the introduction. So now we're going to go right in. So we're in Parshas Tazria. Tazria Mitzayra, 80% of it is speaking about a person who's a Mitzayra, a person who has taras. And there are two general laws. There are two general laws regarding someone who has taras. Number one, there has to be a smart person, a chacham, who looks at who assesses the situation, who looks at this nega, who looks at this at the taras. He has to be wise. He has to be learned. He has to have been taught by his rebbe all the laws. He has to be well versed in taras. He has to know all the names. Actually, there are 72 different types of taras. comes in different forms, different colors. See, only women, when we're doing interior decorating, do we know the difference between cream and ivory and parchment and off-white and eggshell. So the same with this. There's all different types. Taras could come on a person's house and on a person's clothing, and that would be in red or green. But when it come on a person, it would be in colors of shades, different shades of white. And so you have to have a person who's very, very well versed in all the different types of taras to assess that this actually is taras. And it could be anyone who's a chacham. Excellent. Anyone who's a chacham, who's a smart person, could assess the situation to know what the halacha is. Is this or is this not taras? But then there's a second halacha, and that is to assess the situation. That could be anyone. But to determine this person has taras, this person is tameh, and also later on to say this person is tahar, that proclamation could only happen with a kayin. Only a kayin could proclaim and actually change the person's status to make them tameh or to make them tahar again. And it is a necessary condition. If you don't have a kayin, then you cannot, a person does not go into the category of a metzaira, does not have the status of a metzaira until a kayin actually proclaims this. And it could be a kayin who's under bar mitzvah. It could be a child. It could be a kayin who's mentally challenged. And it could be a kayin who doesn't even know. He doesn't know the halachas. He doesn't know if this is taras or not. And it could come to it could be a case where the chacham tells the kayin, say this is taras, say this person is tameh, repeat after me, this person is tameh, this person, and then he'll say, yes, this person is tameh, and then the person will become tameh. He is not tameh until the kayin says so. Okay. So now we have two questions. Since the kayin is relying on the words of the chacham, why is it that the statement of the kayin determines that now that he's a tameh? Why do I need the kayin for? The kayin doesn't know. He doesn't know the halacha. He doesn't know if it is or if it's not. He's relying on the chacham. And question number two, what is unique? What is different about taras that only in the case of taras do you need a kayin to say that he's tameh? There's many other different types of tumah. But if a woman becomes a nida, she doesn't go to a kayin. Is she a nida or is she not a nida? You go to a rav, you go to a doctor. But only in this case, only in the case of a metzaira, do you need a kayin to determine that he's actually tameh? What's different about taras than any other kind of tumah? Only in the case of taras, you need a kayin to determine that he's a metzaira in order for him to be tameh. What's different about taras than any other kind of tumah? Yes, in the case of a metzaira, the kain at the end also has to say that he's tahar in order for him to be tahar. He absolutely has to do both. He does. Yeah, so he absolutely has to do both. That is correct. Okay. The truth is that the whole concept of Tuman Tara is a chayk. A chayk means a mitzvah that has a decree, and we don't ask questions, or we don't. A chayk is something that transcends human logic. Even if we don't understand, we do it anyway. So when it comes to Tuman Tara, it's a chayk. But nevertheless, the Rambam says that it is befitting to contemplate them, and whenever it is possible to provide a reason, And whenever it is possible to provide a reason, such a reason should be provided. So when it comes to a chayk, you can't make up a reason. But if there's a reason and there's a source for the reason, it's befitting to say what the reason is, especially when it will improve our character traits, and because the whole reason why the Torah is given is only to improve our character and to improve our behavior. So the chayk is that you need a kayin to say that he's tameh, you need a kayin to say that he's tahar. Now, you could say it's a chayk is a chayk. Okay, that's it. End of story. Class is over. We could go home. But the fact that if there's a source to learn a reason why why you need the kain to say tami, why you need the kain to say tahar, even though he himself doesn't even know what the halacha is, then there's a lesson to be learned. Then we should learn this lesson. Okay. So the fact that a kayin after the mitzayra is already, after the taras is gone, after the person is cured, the taras goes away, and you need the kain to determine that he's tahar, that he's pure, that is not a question. Because when you talk about a kain is already associated with purity. A kain cannot make himself tameh, right? He can't just go, unless it's one of the very close relatives. A kain doesn't just go to Beis HaChayim. A kain doesn't make himself impure because he has to be ready to serve Hashem in the Beis Hamikdash. And his whole inyan, his whole being, his whole essence is all about purity. He serves Hashem. He helps other people become pure. So the fact that the kain is gonna make someone pure, say that you're pure, that's not a question. That's his department. Purity, that's his department. However, the question is, how could it be someone who's an ambassador of tahara, an ambassador of purity, that he should be the one who has to determine that a Jew is impure? In order to understand this, you have to understand the severity of a mitzvah. What's so terrible about a mitzvah? And the tumah of taras is so strong that it does not exist in any other type of impurity. As you said, other impurities, it happens. It's not something that you did. What's the story with taras? A person that gets taras, why did he get taras? Because he spoke lashon hara about someone. And what's the punishment? What happens to him? He has to dwell alone outside the camp where he lives. And he's sent outside of all three machanes, out of all three camps. So when the Yidden rested in the midbar, so there was where the Mishkan was, and the Kainim were around, their tents were around the Mishkan. That was one camp. Then a wider circle around them was the Leviim. And then around that was the rest of Bnei Israel. And this Mitzayra, has to go out of all three camps. And not only does he have to go out of all three camps, but he has to be in solitary confinement. He can't even spend time with other people who are Mitzayra. You can't have a Mitzayra party. All the people that are Mitzayra, we're gonna, we'll inspire ourselves to do tshuva. No, every person has to be alone. Not just Corona, that everyone's alone in their house with their computer and their phones, but rather they have to go outside of all three machanes, out of their comfort zone, and they're basically being separated from the rest of Klal Yisrael. And not only that, when they go out, they have to say about themselves that they're tameh, like they have to call, like danger, stay away. They have to say about themselves, tameh. Okay, I don't know what happened then, but I believe I learned in the past that this whole concept that a person could speak lashon hara and then usually first it came first on the house. So that was a warning. Hashem didn't hit the person right away. First it was on the house. Then the kohen would be called and to look at it, and then they have to they would close the house. No one should live there for a week or so to see, did this tsaras, did it grow, or did it get did it get or was it shrinking? And if it grows, the kohen comes back and this tsaras grows, then they would have to break down the house and no one could live there forever. They have to destroy the house. And if that wasn't enough, then a closer thing is that tsaras came on their clothing, and only then did it come on the body. So kind of there was like three chances, but yes. So we don't know how many people are actually affected, but we know Moshe Rabbeinu got tsaras when remember he spoke about the Yidden. He said they're not going to believe in me, and then he put his hand in Hashem told him to put his hand in his bosom, and he took it out, and his hand was white like tsaras, and then he put it back in, and then. Right, so I'm saying maybe such great tzaddikim, there was no warning; it right away affected their body. Also Miriam, right? Miriam had tsaras, and Miriam she didn't do it to speak lashon hara because sometimes we speak lashon hara because we want to take revenge on someone or something like that. But Miriam, let's remember who Miriam was. She was the one who who spoke so strongly at the age of 5 that her parents should get back together, that Moshe Rabbeinu should be born. She understood the value of one Jewish child being born. And what happened? Moshe, he separated himself from his wife because he had to speak to the Shechina. So what did she say? She said so the lashon hara, what kind of lashon hara? That Moshe Rabbeinu separated from his wife. It wasn't because she had anything. It was coming from a negative place. She said, how could it be Moshe Rabbeinu, who he himself understood the importance of the husband and wife being together, that if not for that, that was how he was born. So how could he himself separate from his own wife? That's what she said. And then she got tsaras. And who made her? Who was the kayin to say that she's a Matzaira? It couldn't be Aharon, because Aaron was her brother. It couldn't be a relative, and it couldn't be Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu is also a relative, but it couldn't be Moshe Rabbeinu because to establish that someone is a Matzaira could only come from a Kayin. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, or the greatest leader in Jewish history, Moshe Rabbeinu cannot say that a person is a Matzaira. Only a Kayin could say such a thing. So Hashem had to come, and Hashem said that he is a Kayin. And he is proclaiming her as he is proclaiming that she has tsaras.
She was so respected, and then this happens. Maybe that was normal there. Maybe every afternoon people went out, come and walk out. And it was very, big, But really, all Kohanim are related to her, so no Kohen ever. And her brother was,
Right. So the fact that
could nephews do that? Let's say about
that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know, but it specifically says that Aaron couldn't do it. As a brother, he couldn't do it.
So what is the answer that has Cohen?
Okay, so we're getting there.
Okay.
Getting there.
Yeah.
So if you want to look at it from the Hasidic perspective, is that it was a favor that Hashem was doing because the Yidden were such a whole so holy that something as minute as saying, why is my brother separating from his wife? That when there's such holiness, negativity, there's no place for negativity. It would show up, and it would show up because the person was on such a high level that negativity and lashon hara, life couldn't continue until we got rid of it. They were on such a high spiritual level. It's like a beautiful white tablecloth. A drop of grape juice makes a stain. If you have a colorful tablecloth, big deal. It doesn't matter. There's so many other averis that, this is like another lashon hara, big deal. But for someone so great, and for Yidden who are on such a great level, the atmosphere couldn't tolerate lashon hara, and therefore it had to be the person had to be go out of all three machnas. They had to get rid of it immediately. So it was a favor that Hashem was giving them an opportunity to cleanse themselves of this ailment in such a clear way, so they should be pure and that they shouldn't have any blemish whatsoever. Now that we're in Galus, and so now the fact that we don't have tzaras, it's because we're on a low level, that we don't have this incredible kindness, this kindness. We don't have the sensitivity enough, but this incredible kindness to be able to be able to live in a space where lashon hara is not, there's zero tolerance, zero tolerance for it. It's like murder. It says about Tamar. Yeah. And it says about Tamar and Yehuda, we all know the story in the Torah. And what happened? Tamar knew that she had to marry Yehuda's sons in order, because Mashiach would be born from her. And so she married the first son of Yehuda, and he passed away, and the second son of Yehuda, and he passed away. And there's this concept of chalitza, that either chalitza or to marry to marry a brother. If you didn't have children, then to marry the brother. And Yehuda was afraid to give Tamar to the third brother, but she knew that she had to do this. So she pretended to be a Zaina, and she met Yehuda, and the end is that she becomes pregnant with twins. And Yehuda gave her a staff and his ring as payment. And now Tamar is pregnant. Everyone sees that she's pregnant now. So the punishment was that she should be burnt for this transgression of marrying someone else. And her life is at stake. Not only her life, she's pregnant with twins. And who are these twins? These are, Mashiach is going to come from them. And she didn't say that, she didn't say, listen, it's Yehuda. She just said, the person who's stick and ring this that's how I'm pregnant. And Yehuda was amazing that he admitted that he did something wrong and he spared her life. But she was taking a risk of dying if he would have kept quiet. And so you say, how could you give your own life and the life of your unborn children? Because by saying lashon hara about someone, especially someone like Yehuda, but to say lashon hara, you're literally killing a person. And she said, I'd rather not kill someone. I'd rather be killed than kill someone.
Did Yehuda do something wrong? Or back then it was allowed or something?
Well, he said that he made a mistake, that she's right, and he admitted. So I'm saying, I don't know exactly. It was before the giving of the Torah. I don't know exactly what the story was, but yeah. But in any case, we don't even realize, when like you hear all these kids, I was driving my kids to school. I was listening, we listened to the story tapes, but so this particular story, there was a individual. He had a jewelry business, and he had a very, very trusted worker. And then there's a robbery, and everything gets stolen. And the owner, he doesn't want to accuse his most trusted worker. But the police say that he probably did it, and the only way he can get insurance is if he agrees that, if he signs whatever paper that that incriminates this very trusted worker, and he does so, and basically he ruins this guy's life because he was really innocent, but he ruined the guy's life, and then the end is that the real thief is found, and he comes to ask for forgiveness. He says, "You're asking me for forgiveness? You ruined my life. My kids lost all their friends. Shidduchim, we won't talk about that. I mean, you could ruin a person's life by saying something bad about them. And, the end of the story, he says, I'll give you half my business. You'll be a partner with me. And they make peace, whatever it is. But when the most take Uncle Pinchy stories, the blueberry muffin, the guy, this Uncle Pinchy, when he was a little boy, he had this blueberry muffin and he got sick. And he told everyone that the bakery made, had stale bread, stale food, and no one buys from the baker anymore. Really, he finds out that he was allergic to blueberries. That's why he was sick. But in the meantime, the guy's business is ruined. You say one thing, I went to this rabbi or this doctor or this store, and they didn't treat me nicely, whatever it is. That's it. You finish. The guy's finished. His business is finished. So it's really it's really a big deal. So yeah, yeah. Okay. So we're discussing why Matzera, why this impurity of Matzera is so harsh, is so terrible, and basically what happens to him is he's isolated, he's excluded from the rest of the Jewish people temporarily. So this is a very serious tuma. It's a very serious situation for a person to lose a connection to the holy nation. So who is the one that could determine that another Jew should be banished, chas v'shalom, from the camp of holiness? And the answer is only a Kayin. Only a Kayin could do this. Why? It says about the Kayin, what's his inyan? What's a Kayin? Levarech es ama Yisrael be'ahava. We're just coming now from Pesach, where we had Birchas Kayanim. The whole essence of a Kayin is love. He's a man of kindness. And he's a man of kindness, and this is and the love is a requirement for the Kayin to bless the people. As a matter of fact, it says in Shulchan Aruch that if a Kayin knows that there is a person or people in the congregation that don't like him, or if he doesn't like, if we could say that a Kayin hates a person in the congregation, it's better they should walk out of shul and not bless the people. If he doesn't have ahava, he doesn't feel love for the congregation, and if the congregation doesn't feel love for him. Yeah, it's in Shulchan Aruch. I don't know. So the etzem, the essence of a kayin is that they're kind. That's their nature. So and if you find a kayin that's not so nice, the nature is covered up. But really, the etzem, they have this quality of kindness.
Kindness. Sometimes it shows up in a weakness, because the flip side of the strength is your weakness. So that's what you're saying, that really, if you see that in a plan, really the strength is to be kind, because their sources come from a different place than a regular person.
So wow. So Kohanim, absolutely. Kohanim, where do Kohanim, who is their ancestor? It's Aharon. What do we know about Aaron? Aaron, it says, Oyev Shalom v'roidef Shalom. Oyev esabriyas makarvan latayra. Aaron is all about love and peace. And this is an Aaron that they're a descendant of Aaron. Now, in Chumash, we have a lot of sibling rivalry. We have Cain and Hevel, right? Hevel was the younger brother. We have Yitzchak and we have Yishmael and Yitzchak. Yitzchak is the younger brother. We have Esav and Yaakov. Yaakov's the younger brother. And then we have the Shvatim and Yosef. We even have Leah and Rachel. So comes Moshe and Aaron, and Hashem says to Moshe, "Go and say and tell Parah, let my people go." Moshe says, "Hashem, please don't let's not do this. Make this mistake again." Aaron is my older brother, and when Moshe was in Midian, Aaron was the Navi. You didn't have a problem; they would come to Aaron. Let Aaron do it. Moshe couldn't even speak, or else Vasayim. And Hashem says, "Don't worry." Hashem says, Aaron, what does it say about Aaron? Vira'acha v'samach b'libai. He will see you and he will be happy in his heart. He'll be happy for you. He'll say, Moshe Beinu, wow, Hashem chose you to be the leader to save the Yidden. When is the Kiddush in the show? When can we celebrate? He was truly, truly happy for his brother. That is the quality of a Kohen. That is their power. And if a Kayin doesn't feel or doesn't have the love, it's pasha a sakana, it's pasha a danger for him to bench the Yidden. So you could ask, it says, when it says, Asher Kedeshanu Mitzvah Tzivanu, Levarach Es Am Yisrael Ba'ava, where does it say? Where does Hashem command the Kayanim to bench Ava? You won't find such a commandment. But Be'ava, to bench with love, that is the power. That is the power. That is how the power of the Kayin is because of their love. It's their definition. It's their mahus. It's their essence. You don't have to be you won't find a commandment to love because the love, it's not a side thing. That is the reason why they are given the power to bench and their powers work is because they're coming with love. And when you have one brother coming on behalf of another brother, the gates of heaven open. Imagine if a child comes to you and says, your child comes to you and says, I'm having a hard time paying my bills. Could you help me? So the father might say, listen, I feel very bad, but I'm not helping any of my other children with rent. I don't want them to be jealous. I don't know. But if one brother comes and says to his father, Tati, Baruch Hashem, I have everything I need. But my brother, he's really in trouble. He really needs help. No father is going to turn away the request of one brother when he's coming to ask for another brother. So when the Kohanim come to bench us, when Hashem sees the love that one brother comes to ask for brachas for another brother, the gates of heaven are all open. That's the power of the Kohen. So because a Kohen is a man of kindness, the Torah relies only on him to deliver this ruling that a Jew must be banished outside the camp where he lives. Sometimes the verdict is necessary. Sometimes a person spoke to us and this is what has to happen, this is what has to happen. But everyone knows that a Kohen is not going to just say, you have tzaras, get out. Why? Because a Kohen is looking at it not from the perspective of Hashem. Oh, you did something wrong. Oh, you spoke Lashon Hara. That's terrible. But rather, he's looking at it from the perspective of the person that actually did the Aveira. When my daughter Leah, she's turning 18 in Mitzvah Hashem. She just passed her driving test. But when I was pregnant with her, I got into a car accident. It was right around the corner from my house. My husband was in New York. The airbags came out. It was a wreck. I had 3 babies in the back. I was 7 months pregnant. And after that, I literally cried for 1 week. I was whatever. But after that, if anyone ever got into a car accident, I never said, how could you do it? Why weren't you careful? La, la, la. Once I experienced it, it was like from 1 second to the next, I have no explanation for how it happened. All of a sudden, I was basically in a tree. Like I can't tell. I was around the corner from my house. It wasn't like that. I drove for an hour and a half and I was tired on the road, whatever it is. It was like out of nowhere. I could never, because after that, for 1 year, we had someone driving our kids to school. And on the very first day, so we had a teacher living in our house and she drove the kids to school. On the very first day, before school even started, she took the car. There was a crash. Day one, but I could never get upset at anyone because I know what it felt like. The tickets and everything. It was, so once you experience something and you see what it was, you'll never be upset at them because you experience it. So Kain is what? Exactly. Can't judge them. So a Kain, he's looking at the person, he's experiencing their he's looking at it from their perspective. He's going into their shoes, and he's not just saying, oh, you did something wrong, get out. He's feeling the person, not just what the halacha is. And he's not going to just say flippantly, oh, get out. But rather, he's going to, if he doesn't know the halacha, he's going to interrogate the chacham. He's going to ask him a million questions to try somehow to find a loophole, to help the guy out. He's not just going to, he's going to really, really try not to make the person tamei, not to find a way. How can we say that he's not really tamei? Okay. Okay. Now we can understand why it says in the pasuk in Parsha Shoftim, it says, "Hakayanim bam bachar Hashem lekecha l'sharsei levarich b'shem Hashem, v'alpiyem yia kol v'chol naga." What does that mean? It says, the Kayanim whom God your Lord chose to serve him and to bless the people in God's name, all quarrels and all tzaras blemishes will be determined by their word. What's the connection? These Kayanim, Hashem chose them to serve him and to bless the Jewish people, and they should be the ones to determine any quarrel or any blemish. What's the connection? For the same reason that Hashem chose them to bench the Jewish people, that is the reason why, by their word, blemishes will be determined. Because of their love to bench, that's why Hashem says only a Kayin could say about another Jew that they're tamei. Of course, the ruling has to be according to Torah's law, and you need a scholar, you need a chacham. But when it comes to the actual application of the ruling, that could only be by someone who's very sensitive to appreciate the severity of such a harsh ruling.
Some child with some special needs, they comprehend the severity of what they're just mimicking what they're technical.
So in a case where there is no, if you don't, I'm saying obviously it's better to have a kayin, who could, who does understand and who is empathetic. But I'm saying in the worst case scenario, what Moshe Rabbeinu can't do, a child that's a kayin could do.
Does that mean we don't have that quality?
good question.
Not singular.
It's a gift. It's a special gift. It doesn't, so you see, we could work on it, but they're born with it. They have a special gift. They have a special gift. It's funny, my daughter Rachi, she says to me, she sees my son-in-law is a kayin, Uziel is a kayin. No, no. But Uziel is a kayin. And the second daughter, she says to me, Ma, they're talking by the table. She says, Ma, how could I make my marriage be like Uziel and Mushka? And it's really so special. Like we stand in awe. We stand in awe because when there's a love, it's amazing. It's amazing. And it's not to say that there's never a rainy day. But the love is just, it's just so beautiful. It's just so beautiful to see. Yeah. Anyway, the Kayin will dig deeper and he's going to labor. He's going to work hard to try to say that he's not tummy, to try to find a loophole, something to try not to make him tummy. But if a kayin, a man of kindness, after laboring and investigating and analyzing, and he says that he's tameh, we could be sure that this is true. It's a true ruling according to what the Torah tells us. And we know at the same time, we're certain that this kayin is going to invest all of his energy to make sure that afterwards this person should become purified. Okay, now we're going to come to a clear lesson for us. The lesson is that even a great scholar, someone who's learned in the entire Torah, and he analyzes, whose analysis stemming from the wisdom of the Torah leads to the assessment that there's such a person that has to be distanced from others and sent outside the camp where he lives. Okay? So now we're bringing it to 2025, not in the midbar anymore. A great leader, a big Rosh Yeshiva, says this person is out, off the derech. He may have come to that conclusion. He may not immediately deliver such a judgment regarding another Jew. Before doing so, he must carefully examine himself regarding his own level of kindness and avas Yisrael, the love for one's fellow Jew. If a person does not have the characteristic qualities of a kayin, you might not be a kayin, but if you don't have the characteristics of a kayin, he is lacking in genuine avas Yisrael. He does not have the right to issue such a ruling regarding another Jew. It is possible that his inclination to deliver such a ruling does not stem solely from analysis based on the Torah's wisdom, but rather results from his own unrefined character traits. Because your midas aren't up to par. Therefore, you see the person in this light. You have an image to uphold, or whatever whatever it is that's causing you to write this person off. You have to examine your own avos Yisrael before you could say such a thing. And remember, we said that you could be the biggest chacham, but if you're not a kayin, you can't make someone tameh. You can't say they're off the derech if you're not a kayin, if you don't have the characteristic of a kayin. As a matter of fact, anyone who issues a ruling that another Jew must be banished outside the camp where he lives is uttering a falsehood. He's saying a lie. He's saying a lie. As such, he himself can be considered a Metzaira. What's a Metzaira? Look at the word Metzaira. Metzaira is Maitzi Shem Ra. You're spreading bad things, which is even worse than Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is true. Maitzi Shem Ra is when you say something bad about someone that's not true. If you say about another person that they're off the derech or whatever, you write them off, they have to go out of all three machanes or whatever it is. They have to be excommunicated from the Jewish people, and you're not a kayin, meaning that you don't have the characteristic of a kayin, then you're pashat lying. You're lying, and you're being mitzi shem ra, which would make you into a Metzaira yourself, not you. I'm saying the person. Lashon Hara is when you tell the truth, and something bad about someone that's the truth, and you could get tzaras for that. Here, a person who's mitzi shem ra is spreading slander. He's spreading falsehood regarding his fellow. And how should a Torah scholar correct this fault? He should dwell alone outside the camp where he lives, and he should remain in such a state until he has habituated himself to look at another Jew with a favorable eye. Until then, he should remain apart from other Jews and not create strife with his malicious speech and slander. Only when he is healed from this blemish can he return and be restored to health. And this part is talking about today. One more paragraph, and then we'll start bringing about this. We'll go back to the positive. It is by conducting ourselves with true Avas Yisrael, showing unrestrained love, that we can nullify the exile, described as taras. Mashiach is also described as a Metzaira. Why is he described as a Metzaira? Because he's suffering for all of our Averis. And the whole galus was caused by baseless hatred. And when we have increased our Avos Yisrael, now we're in Sfira Sa'imer, when we're working on ourselves, working on our Avos Yisrael. And we have the students of Rabbi Akiva that didn't have enough respect for each other. Then, as a natural consequence, the true and ultimate redemption led by Mashiach will come immediately. May it happen speedily in our days. Mashiach will come automatically and immediately when we increase in Avos Yisrael. This is the teaching. Okay, now we're going to do a couple of stories over here to tie this all together and to bring it back to what we said about this constructive criticism. Hopefully not. He didn't end the story. But hopefully not. Why? Yeah. Okay. When a person wants to give, okay, so we're veering off a little bit. We're going into relationships over here. But when a person is in a situation or in a marriage where they feel that if they give their husband criticize him, then what's going to happen? It's just going to backfire. And the husband will be, MIA for 2 weeks until he calms down. And it wasn't even worth saying anything because it completely backfires. And how could you say what you have to say without hurting someone? And to answer, I'm going to tell you a story about about two brothers. One brother, his name was Zalman, and the other brother, his name was Shalom. One was 10 and one was 9. And they were the sons of the 4th Chabad Rebbe. And how did they play? They didn't play basketball. They played Rebbe and Chassid. So the older one, the 10-year-old, he's the Rebbe. Zalman was the Rebbe. And the younger one, Shalom, he was the Chassid. So what did he do? The older brother, the 10-year-old, he puts on the shtreimel and the sartuk, the gartel, gets himself a big Gemara, make himself, sit by the table, make himself look like a Rebbe. And then the 9-year-old comes in, Shalom comes in, and he says, I need a tikkun. What's the tikkun? Because I did something wrong. The Alter Rebbe in his Shulchan Aruch says that it's okay to do it, but in the Siddur, which he wrote after, he said not to do it, and I did something wrong, and therefore I need a tikkun. So the older brother, he thinks about it, and he says to him, okay, what you have to do for a tikkun, you have to learn Hilchos Shabbos to get a tikkun for what you did wrong. Fine. A few days later, Rebbetzin Rivka, who was the mother, she obviously overheard it. A few days later, she goes to her son Shalom, and she said, "Did you do the tikkun that your brother said?" So he said, "No." So the mother said, "Why not? He's the Rebbe. You have to listen to the Rebbe." So he says, "No, he's not a real Rebbe because he didn't sigh." So what's going on here? When a person criticizes someone, and what happens is the person that it gets the criticism, he's going to take it and change his ways, not because of what you said, but because of the love that was behind it, because of the sigh. The sigh is what makes the person change. It's the love. It's the love behind it. When a person everyone wants to be good. Everyone wants feedback. How can I improve? How can I be a better person? It's wonderful. We don't have an issue with the criticism. We have an issue with the tone of voice.
It's like, it's something that you have, like, something in your life that it's not helping.
Yeah. I remember when I was 14 years old, I was in ninth grade. It was right after Gimel Tammuz. We were like lost sheep. And every Friday night, we were ninth graders, and there were 12th graders that literally took us under their wing. Every Friday night, we had a farbrengen. Once a month, it was in my parents' house, and then other 3 weeks in other people's houses. And we would sit after the Friday night meal. We would come together, ninth graders and 12th graders. We would sing Nigunim, and we have a farbrengen. And one Friday night, I remember where I was sitting. I remember whose house it was in, and we were talking, and it was a very difficult time. It was a very difficult time, just to say the least. And especially if you were a kid, it was difficult because we didn't know what we were talking. We didn't know what we were saying, and there was politics and whatever what went on then, and without getting into detail, I was very much alone. Put it that way. 95% of the school and the community felt one way, and I was on the other side. And we were talking, and this 12th grader who I very much respect and respected, she said something to me, and I don't remember what she said. But after Shabbos, she called me on the phone. She said, "Chani, I want to apologize. Not for what I said, but for how I said it." I was 14, and I still remember. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of things, but that I remember. And if you want to criticize someone, and you want them to listen and accept it and change, you have to make sure, you have to invest and show them that you love them and you care about them before you criticize. The criticizing can't come from a place of anger. When I'm angry, when I'm in a situation of when I'm in a desperate situation, or that's not a time to criticize. Why are you not there for me? La la la. I can't manage. That's not the right time. The other person, it's going to backfire for sure. It's going to backfire in a healthy relationship. It's going to backfire. You have to come from a place of love. To come from a place of love, then it could be accepted you could say whatever you want. You could say whatever you want, it's going to be accepted if the person feels like came from a place of love. And we see this in the Torah, we don't have to look far. Hashem took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. When the Yidden were also serving Avodah Zarah, they weren't so great. They were on the 49th level of Tumah when Hashem swooped them out. Hashem didn't say, sign a contract that you're going to accept the Torah and then I'll take you out. What did Hashem do? Dam, Tzvardeya, Kinim, Arev, Devar, Shchem, Bar, Darba, Chayshach, Makas, B'chayres. He did 10 Makas to punish the Goyim and to show the Yidden, to help the Yidden. And then he took them out and Kriyas Yamsuf and everything, all the miracles and the man and everything. And then after he showed us that he loves us, then he says, do you want the Torah? And the same thing is with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, he was a leader for 40 years in the desert. He doesn't give any rebuke whatsoever. Comes the last 5 weeks of his life, after he already took the Yidden, they already see that Eretz Yisrael, they conquered the enemies, and they're already dreaming about the villas that they're going to build once they get to Israel. Once they already see they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're about to go into Eretz Yisrael. After that's when Moshe Rabbeinu could give rebuke. For 40 years, he fought for them and he loved them and he did everything for them. He kept his mouth shut. He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything because remember the desert, and every year at Tisha B'Av, more Jews were passed away because of the Meraglim. He didn't want anyone to come and say that he should give rebuke, and then they're going to say that they're going to feel that Moshe didn't love them. Only after Moshe could prove, after 40 years, his love and dedication to the people. 40 years, we can't keep quiet for 40 seconds. After 40 years of showing his love, then the last 5 weeks of his life, he could give teichacha and he could accept it. The last story, more stories. Here's the story that Rabbi Ashkenazi says. He says that the Rebbe was very, very careful to daven every single word from the Siddur and to follow every word from the Siddur. So even by Chazar Sashatz, the Rebbe was always following in the Siddur. And the Rebbe was already older. And so when he would sit like this. He would sit with it. He would rest his head on his hand when he was looking at the Siddur. But everyone noticed that there were some times that the Rebbe did not. He sat upright for the entire davening and wouldn't even rest his head on his hand. And eventually people put the two and two together. Basically, there was a person, his name was Shimon. And he was probably in some kind of accident, and his face was deformed, and he was blind. And when he came to 770, when he was there, the Rebbe never put his head on his hand because he didn't want to show that he doesn't want to see him, even though the person couldn't see. The person was blind. But then no one should think for half a second that the Rebbe doesn't want to see his deformed face. So whenever he was in the shul, the Rebbe would sit upright and he would not put his hand to cover to rest his head. I could share a few more stories, and if time allows, there's a story that I must have shared it more than once. There's a story of a class. There was a class and a bunch of boys in the class, and one of the boys got a very fancy watch from a relative as a gift. And what happened? I hope I'm not messing up the details. And what happened was the watch went missing. And the Rebbe told all the kids after recess The Rebbe said, did anyone take it? Please please give it back. The watch wasn't returned. The Rebbe told all the kids to line up against the wall and close their eyes, and he's going to check everyone's pockets to see, to get the watch back. And he does so, and the watch was in someone's pocket, and he returned the watch, and that was it. That was the end of the story. Years later, one of the students met this teacher, and the teacher said, "So what do you do? What do you do?" And he says, "I'm a teacher." What made you decide to be a teacher? He said, I'm sure there are other, there are other better, occupations that could get more money from, you could earn more money. He says, I was inspired to become a teacher because of you. Because when I saw that you didn't embarrass another child who took someone's watch, I decided that's what I'm going to become a teacher. So he didn't even remember the story. So he says, I was the one who took the watch. And you didn't embarrass me. You never called me out. You never did anything. And so the Rebbe says, when I was looking for the watch, my eyes were also closed. The Rebbe himself didn't know who took the watch. He didn't want to know, and he didn't know who took the watch. There's another story of a boy who didn't do so well in school. I also said this story in the past. And years later, he bumps into the principal, and the principal sees, oh, he's a from wonderful yid, and everything's wonderful. So he says, "What happened to you in school? You were so rotten. How did you make a mensch out of yourself?" So he said, "I'll tell you. Every single Friday, my teacher would call me every Friday to wish me a good Shabbos." So the principal calls the teacher and he says, "You should know that because you call your student every single week, not just the year that he was teaching him, for years and years, you called your student every Friday, and this is what made him, this is what he says, made him into who he is today." So the teacher said, "Wow, I called him every week, but he never picked up the phone." And one last story, which I also probably said, coming from Pesach, there was a Yid who, after the Holocaust, he was so disillusioned, he lost his whole family. He said, "I'm going to move to a place where there are no Jews. No one's going to ever find me." And he got married to someone who wasn't Jewish, and he lived his life. And every Sunday, all the people went to the church. One thing he didn't do, he didn't go to church. Anyway, I went ahead of myself, so I'll backtrack. There was a shliach who gets a phone call from the Rebbe's secretary that he should go to a certain city, a certain place, and he should bring matzah, and he should deliver matzah to a Jew in this place. Didn't give him an address, just name of a place. The shliach goes, travels 4 hours on an Erev Yontif to go to this place, and he comes there, and he can't find one Jew. And he asked everyone, "Are there any Jews here? Any Jews?" "No, there's no Jews here. There are no Jews here. Forget it. It's impossible. There's no Jews. No Jews live here." And he asked everyone, he says, "Okay, I have to go back. Yontif is coming. There's no choice." Maybe it was the day before Yontif. And he just goes to the gas station to fill up gas to go home. And the last option, he says to the gas attendant, "Do you know of any Jews here?" So he says, "There's an old man in the back of the gas station. I think he's Jewish." So the shliach runs to the back of the gas station, and sure enough, there's a yid over there, and he says, "I have matzah for you from the Lubavitcher Rebbe." And the man bursts out crying. And this is the story that he says. "I'm a Jew. I'm a Holocaust survivor. I came to this place. I didn't want to have anything to do with the Jewish people anymore. And my wife is not Jewish. And every Sunday, everyone goes to the church except for me. And the priest in the past few months, he kept coming to my house and kept asking me, why don't you come to the service in the church? Everyone else comes, your wife comes, your family comes, why don't you come? He says, I can't come. He says, why don't you come? Your God forgot about you. Convincing him. So one day he turns to Hashem and he says, Hashem, if you still remember me, if you see me, show me a sign. Tells the priest in 3 days, give me 3 days. If in 3 days I don't have a sign from God, I'm going to come to the church. He turns to the sheikh and he says, today is the 3rd day. And the priest came this morning to already nudge me to come to the church. And I said, no, it's not dark yet. But this is what it means, a kayin. This is what it means, love. That you could be in the far end of the corner of the world. But a kayin loves. A kayin loves a Jew who's outside of all 3 machanes. He's excommunicated. Didn't know to excommunicate him. He excommunicated himself. He lives in a place where there's no Yidden, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with the Eibishter, Klal Yisrael. And even such a Jew, Makarvan Latayra, with love. It's all with love, and that's the answer. That's the answer. And it will help our relationships with our children and with our spouses and with everyone. That you have to first show. You have to first show that you love, and then anything you have to say will be heard and accepted and appreciated. But there has to be the love, the compliments, the emojis, whatever it is, empathy, gratitude, absolutely. Okay, it's a lot to work on, and this teaching, of course, you can find in Project the Sichos, but it's in the Blue Book as well. It's Chelek Zayin. Sorry, it's Chelek Zayin Tazria Beis, but in the Blue Book it's Tazria Aleph. And that's where this is the English is.
No. You're going to get weak at some point. But when you approach it with two people looking right from the sword, then there isn't even not the fight.
One more story that reminded me that Rabbi Ashkenazi says, and that he says the was a story of the Chafetz Chaim. He was traveling. He was coming to a certain city. So the big veer of the town, he was going to have the honor to host the Chafetz Chaim. And the wife, for 3 days, she got all the chefs and everyone to make the most amazing Shabbos dinner. Not that he needed it. 20 salads and 20 different types of meat, whatever it is. She worked so hard. And comes Friday night, and they come home from shul. And the man, he's like, so, feels so honored. Everyone is jealous of him that he's hosting the Chafetz Chaim. Comes in, and the table is set beautifully, and the challahs are not covered. So he screams, whatever his wife's name was, Achana, don't you know they have to cover the challah? And the Chafetz Chaim says to him, do you know why we cover the challah? He said the challah shouldn't be embarrassed. Shouldn't be embarrassed that you're making the challah is really more important, that you're making that you shouldn't be embarrassed that you're making kiddush first. And the challah doesn't go to a therapist. You're not going to find the challah crying by the therapist that someone hurt their feelings. And yet we cover the challah. We cover the challah, so the challah shouldn't be embarrassed. So here for 3 days that she's working, slaving away to make this most beautiful meal in one sentence, how do you think she felt? As if she's like, doesn't know anything, She forgot in all the tumult that was going on. So the sensitivity that we need to have for every single person, and it's just one word. It's just one word, and it's literally life-changing. It's short. It's a short teaching. It's a short word.
There's a lot of action.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Okay. Thank you, Chami, for being with us. Zoom. Well, ultimately, we should, we should merit to with our Ahavas Yisrael. We could do it. We could do it. We see how important it is. We are doing it. We'll continue doing it, and we'll bring Mashiach automatically and immediately. Okay.